space between what remains of me in this reckoning. Either way, I will bow to the things of this world. And I know I will never be alone. There is another in the fight, standing next to me. There is another in the waters, holding back the seas. And should I ever need reminding what power set me free, there is a grave that holds nobody. Now the power that lives in me, and I can see the light in the darkness as the darkness bows to him. I can hear the roar in the heavens as the space between whispers. I can feel the ground shake beneath us as the prison walls cave in. Nothing stands between us. Nothing stands between us.
Well, shalom, everybody. Hi, my name is Lauralee. Some of you know me, some you don't. So I do go by modern day Samaritan woman, and I will share a little bit more about that later on in the testimony. So I'm not going to give you what we call in Alcoholics Anonymous a drunk-a-log, right? I'm not going to go into all the sordid details. But I do want to say that the Father has delivered me out of alcoholism and drug addiction and that whole lifestyle. And he actually not just brought me out, delivered me, but he also took me to college to become a substance abuse counselor. And so I worked in the field as a substance abuse counselor for many years. I worked in inpatient, outpatient jails. I've gone into prisons for prison ministry. I've worked in many different facets of the field of addictions, and I've seen a lot. I've heard a lot of stories from people through the years. And so, anyways, I was pondering how to start this. And I just want to say I lost everything in order to gain everything. So let me tell you what I mean by that I have lost everything to gain everything. So my last husband was a narcissist, and there were definitely demonic spirits within operating in the house through him. And I'm not going to go into details. Let's just say that I ended up in a domestic violence shelter for women, and they found me a transitional housing, an apartment through their transitional housing program. The Father just opened the doors wide open. It was like, it's time for you to be free and not to go back, because I kept going back because I didn't have money. Anyways, there's a lot to women going back to domestic abusive situations for a number of reasons. And I am an advocate. I'm a domestic violence advocate. Been there, done that, have gone through extensive training to be an advocate. So this is very typical of women to go back several times, just like some of the Israelites wanted to go back to Egypt, right? They wanted to go back into slavery because it was what was familiar to them. Three hots and a cot. And so that's what women do, is they will continue to go back into these types of environments. And I did that in a lot of relationships because of my childhood abuse. That was my norm. I was attracted to men who were abusive because of what happened in my childhood. So a little bit more about my background. I was raised a Seventh-day Adventist, and I remember one of the memories that the Father gave to me, because a lot of my childhood I don't remember because it was so traumatic. But one of the memories that the Father gave to me was precious memory of my being a little girl, and I loved the Sabbath. I loved Jesus. I loved the Sabbath. And another memory that he gave me was that my favorite toy was a stuffed lamb. Okay. So, yes, I was raised, my mom was a Seventh-day Adventist. My dad was not a believer. Both my parents are what's termed adult children alcoholics. Both my parents, traumatic upbringings, rejection, abandonment, physical abuse, sexual abuse, all sorts of abuse got handed down. And so one of the things about alcoholic slash dysfunctional families are unspoken rules. Don't talk, don't think, don't feel, don't trust. So those are the rules, unspoken rules, and the roles are the hero child, the scapegoat, the mascot, and the lost child. And I'm going to be doing some teachings in the future about the roles and the rules, because all this stuff we bring into our relationships, we bring into our walk with Yah, we bring into the workplace. So I lost everything. I'm in this little tiny apartment. Praise the Lord, I have my own tiny place. Well, I ended up relapsing on crack cocaine, of all things. Crack cocaine. I'm out in the hood getting crack cocaine. This is after working in the field for many years as an addictions counselor, right? And I had come unglued, just totally unglued. But the Father was so good that he didn't leave me drinking and going, letting strange men in the back of my car to take me to a crack house. I mean, this is totally insane. But the demons were pretty powerful, trying to destroy me. Well, I found myself over and over again sitting in the dark, sobbing, and just saying, you know, where are your real people? Where are the people that love you, that keep your commandments? What does your word really say? What are the Hebrew roots of your word? And I kept praying this, and it was very painful. It was almost as if I was giving birth. I would just sit in the dark, rocking, praying this constantly over and over. And one day I'm like, what the heck am I praying? What the heck are Hebrew roots? So I Googled Hebrew roots, and up comes Rico Cortez. Some of you may know Rico. I'm like, who is this person? So I grab my Bible, and I sit down with my Bible, and I said to the Father, I'm done being deceived. I don't want to hear from any Christians. I'm done with churchianity. I'm done with Christianity. I don't know who this person is, Father, but I don't want to be deceived anymore. So I started listening to Rico, following along in the word, and I'm weeping. I think he was unpacking Galatians, and I'm weeping. I'm like, oh my gosh, we've been so deceived. We don't even know what we're reading. And then I thought to myself, I wonder if there's anybody else teaching like this man. Where is this man from? And it turns out he lived like an hour from my mom in Florida. I'm like, well, that doesn't help me here in New York. So I don't even know what website I was on. It was totally the Ruach leading me. And there must have been a fellowship finder And so I clicked on and found all these other Messianic communities. And I found one that was 45 minutes from me. So I ordered their Bible study and I went through the Bible study. I'm like, oh my gosh, these people eat clean. They keep the Sabbath. They honor the commandments. And so the Ruach started wooing me. I want you to go. And I'm like, I won't say the words that I said because, I just won't say it. But I'm like, no, no, I'm not going. I told you I was done with those people. I'm done with church. So through the course, on and off through, I don't know, a few weeks anyways, he kept pressing in on me to go to this country church. And I'm like, no, I told you I am so done with churchianity. And so one day I'm like, okay, I better go. I better obey. But I want you to protect me. So I walk in and they were doing an altar call. And I don't do altar calls. And I found myself walking up front and the pastor looked at me and he put his hands on me. And he said, he knows, he knows, he knows, he knows. And out of the pastor's mouth came all this stuff about me that only the Father knew. And then the associate pastor came, laid his hands on me, and he said, child of the Most High God, it is time for you to come out of the dark. It is time for you to start writing and speaking again. That became my little country congregation for the next 3 years. And I learned about the feast days. It was shortly after that I kept the very first Sukkot, and I learned about the Passover and the other feast days. And I thought to myself, oh my gosh, when I was a Seventh-day Adventist, I used to ask, why are we keeping the feast days? And the typical answer I always got from various people is, oh, that's for the Jews. But I would point to them in the Bible. I'm like, but that's not what it says. It says here that it's for all the children of God and for all generations. And so there were some things about the Seventh-day Adventists that I did love, but there was some things that just made me go, And the big reason why I left is because of covering up of domestic abuse and child abuse and coddling the abusers. And I just didn't want to be a part of a denomination that did that. And the way I was treated and the way my son was treated was not okay. So I left. And so here I am in this little country church, learning the Torah, learning about the tribes. And the Father was healing me and delivering me. I went to a couple of deliverance ministries because I needed to be delivered. You don't walk where I've walked, and a lot of us need to be delivered. And so he just started downloading in me his truth and healing me and delivering me. And so I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry. I wanted to make a point and I forgot. Anyways, hopefully it'll come back to me. So one day I was at my friend's house and we were studying this book by Charles Kraft, Deep Wounds, Deeper Healing. It was unsettling to me. And it was all about the inner child and bringing Jesus, Yeshua, into those places. as a child where we were wounded. And it was all about healing the inner child. Now, when I worked as a counselor for a number of years, I looked into the inner child and I couldn't connect with my inner child. So I just dismissed it. So here's this book we're studying week after week. And I left there one day and I was upset. I'm like, what a bunch of crap this is. Are you trying to tell me that I still have this wounded place in me, this little girl, inner child, that's still driving the bus, and that I'm supposed to connect with her because I think this is a bunch of crap. And if it's true, then I'm asking you to show me. So a couple of days after that, I'm cleaning my bedroom. And I just want to say this, that remember that his kingdom is supernatural, right? It's supernatural. Things in his kingdom are not like our kingdom. So I'm cleaning my bedroom. And I had a mentor a couple years prior give me the cutest little stuffed lamb. I was going to bring it today and I forgot. Sorry. It's cutest stuffed lamb. And I found myself picking this lamb up. This is going to sound really whack. I picked this lamb up and I'm holding the lamb, looking at the lamb, and I start talking to the lamb. And something really, really deep inside of me broke. And I ended up on my knees, undone, sobbing from a really, really deep place within my soul. And yahusha appears. And I'm like, I have lost my cotton picking mind. I have lost my mind. And so I'm starting to fight this whatever was going on. And he kept saying, Lauralee, focus. I want you to focus. 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 The next thing I see in my mind's eye is this little girl. And he had to keep telling me, I want you to focus. Stop. I want you to focus. I want you to look at her. Look at her, Lauralee. Do you see how little, how beautiful, precious she is? That is you. That is you. That is your authentic self. And then he proceeded to take me through situations that happened to me as a little girl. I am undone. I am totally unglued. And he showed me where my eating disorder began. Sitting at the dinner table and being grilled by my father. Well, what did you learn at school today? I don't know. What do you mean you don't know? What are you, stupid? I don't want to trigger anybody, but that's just one incident. And he showed me how that impacted me, how I struggled in school. And I got to tell you that when he was bringing me to college, I was terrified that I could not maintain a C average because I had been convinced that I was stupid. I'm a female. Women are less than. Women are inferior. Women only stay home, have babies, and da 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 da. So when I went to college, I ended up graduating with honors, and it would have been high honors if I hadn't rested on my laurels in my senior year. I got into an Ivy League college because of my high GPA. So that was one of the things that had happened to me. Eating disorder, the impact on my self-esteem, my self-worth, believing in myself. I didn't have any of that. The sexual abuse, the sibling rivalry that was actually abuse, physical abuse, emotional, verbal, spiritual, sexual, just all sorts of abuse that twisted my mind, twisted me, and led me to a life of drinking, of drugging, of giving myself away for crumbs of affection, crumbs of attention, because I wasn't getting affection and attention in a healthy way from my father. And my mother showed me what a good Christian mother is supposed to look like. Because remember, both my parents grew up in alcoholic, violent, sexually abusive homes. It's generational, right? If any of you have been reading my blogs, I've been writing about intergenerational trauma. So we inherit all this. Where the forgiveness comes is recognizing that they did the very best that they knew how, and owning how it impacted me, and allowing the Father into those deep, deep places where we hold on to that trauma. We hold it inside of us. And, I'm still healing, because through life, sometimes life events happen that trigger that stuff. And then it's, okay, time out. I need to put the oxygen mask on me. Okay. So that's what I've been doing lately, putting the oxygen mask on me. And okay. So I'm at this little country church learning Torah. I'm at my friend's house studying Charles Kraft. Yeshua appears, okay? And he's taking me through my life. Like my life is passing before me, right? And I'm on my face on the floor, totally unglued, totally like, just think what an encounter like that would be like. And then he starts saying to me, you are mine. I have called you by name. You are mine. I knit you together in your mother's womb. I created you with gifts, with talents. You are intelligent. You come from a long line of intelligent, creative writers, artists, speakers, professors, Underground Railroad conductors, epigenetics. This is in your blood. This is who I created you to be. You are an artist. You are a writer. You are a speaker. I put you in the pulpit. I gave you the gift of writing. I have rescued you. And I have called you by name, and you are mine. And nobody gets the right to tell you who you are. Only I have the power and the ability and the right to tell you who you are. And you are my beloved. Silence. He left. I just want to cry. I am like on my face on my bedroom floor. I'm like, there is no way that just happened. There is just no way that Yeshua HaMashiach, the King, would come visit me. So I peeled myself off the floor and I gathered myself and I drove to my girlfriend's and I walk in. She's known me for 25 years and she's like, "What's the matter?" And I'm like, "You are not." I won't say exactly everything that I said because it's not like, I have some struggles sometimes with my mouth. Pray for me. And I said, "You are not going to believe what happened to me." She's like, What? Tell me. So I sat there and I told her all the nitty gritty details. And we're sitting there weeping and weeping. And I get done telling her, and I'm like, "Julie, it finally happened. I've lost my mind. I've lost it." She's like, "No, you haven't." I'm like, "What do you mean I haven't?" She says, "Well, you texted me this morning and you asked me to ask the Father what we should study next." Because I just had it with this book. I didn't want to read it anymore. She says, "So I asked the Father and I went to my bookcase and I want to share with you the book that he led me to and what I opened up to." So she opens the book and she starts reading. This is paraphrased, of course, but she started reading that adults fight the truth of the inner child because it doesn't make any intellectual sense, because it's supernatural. That in a nutshell is what it said. And I'm like, "Oh my gosh." So he's, yeah. Oh my goodness. Okay. So another wild story. I have a lot of wild stories. So one day I'm in my apartment and I kept hearing Hebrew Nation Radio over and over. I'm like, "What the heck is Hebrew Nation Radio?" So I like Googled it, and it's an actual real thing. Hebrew Nation Radio. I'm like, "Oh my gosh." So I turned it on, and the wise guys are on, and they're talking about why is there so much infighting within the Hebrew roots community. And I thought to myself, "Oh, that's easy. It's sibling rivalry. Everybody's like still carrying all their childhood crap and they're triggering one another." And they were offering for the first time caller the DVD The Way, and I was like, "Ooh, I've heard that's really good. I want that DVD." And they were also asking people to write Daniel Holdings a email congratulating him on his new position as a program manager. And so nobody was calling in, and the Ruach kept like prodding me to call in. I'm like, "Oh no, I'm not calling in. No." And so it wouldn't go away. He wouldn't stop. And I'm like, "Okay, I better be obedient, but I know I won't get in. I won't get on. Yes, I won't get on." I was like trying to comfort myself. I won't get on the radio, but I'll be obedient and I'll call. Well, I got on straight away. And so I gave him my 2 cents, and they're like, "Wow, that's really interesting. We never thought of that." And so when they called me to get my address to send the DVD, I had a really great chit chat with whoever it was that called me. And they said, "People really need to hear what you have to say." And I'm like, "Yeah, right. Okay." And so I did something out of the ordinary for me. I wrote Daniel Holdings an email, and I elaborated on my background and what I see going on, that is the same thing that I saw in the Seventh-day Adventist Church, and that the Father revealed to me it's because of the same brokenness and the same spirits, same religious spirits, same brokenness. Okay, don't talk, don't think, don't feel, don't trust, the rules and the roles in the family dynamics being played out. And so I got the DVD and went to Florida on vacation, and I kept hearing, "I'm going to launch you. I am going to launch you over and over. I'm going to launch you. I'm like, what the heck is this? You're going to launch me. I am losing my cotton picking mind. This is crazy, crazy. So I get to Florida, and an incident happened with a person who I thought was my friend, and it led me to dig into old emails. Well, believe it or not, I had never, ever, and I'm being real here, this is crazy, never checked my spam mail. So I felt led to check my spam mail, and there is Daniel Holdings' email in my spam mail telling me that he wants to talk to me and he wants me to call him on such a day. Well, it was the following day. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is bizarre. So I called him and we're chatting about, my response and my insight into what's going on in the Hebrew Roots movement, Torah community. And then I told him my crazy lamb story. And I figured he's going to think I'm crazy. He's going to tell me to go check in the closest psych center. He says, hold up. And I'm like, okay, here it comes. And he says, people need to hear what you have to say. And he said, I'm going to ask you something, but I want you, before you respond, I want you to go to the Father and make sure you hear from the Father. Would you consider doing your own radio show for Hebrew Nation Radio? So we get off the phone and I call one of my friends in New York, a writer friend. And I'm like, you're not going to believe this. And I told her about it. And she says, oh, he's launching you. Right? So then I get off the phone with her and he calls me back and he's like, I'm sorry, I know you're on vacation, but we really need a guest for Monday. Would you please come on and be our guest on our live 2-hour show? And it comes out of my mouth, sure, I'll be right. So I'm like, oh my gosh, Father, I need a safe, secure, quiet place to do this radio show if you really want me on the radio. So my mother's neighbor comes over to my mom and she says, do you think your daughter would like to use my she shed? So I go over there and it's a perfect location, perfect setup. It had the most comfortable office chair. So I'm doing this live 2-hour show with Daniel Holdings and Al McCarn. And Daniel says to Al, guess what? What? We've got a brand new radio show coming on. Really? What's the name of it? I don't know. Lauralee, what's the name of your show? I'm like, it just comes out of my mouth. Healing for the Nations with a modern day Samaritan woman. You can't make this stuff up, right? So I've been doing the show for almost 6 years now. So what I did in the beginning was the first year I took all the Torah portions and I drew out of it recovery principles, recovery messages. And it was all the Father, because I'm like on my face, literally on my face on my kitchen floor, because I didn't know what I was doing. I had very little help. I'm not a techie person. Look, I'm just me, right? And so he would tell me, he would give me a word. I'm like, what is that? And he would just weave together. It was the Father, just only the Father. It wasn't me. He would weave together these amazing, beautiful messages. And so then the second year, I pulled the 12 steps of recovery out of the Torah portions. Now, I know there's a lot of controversy over AANA, but the steps are the steps, and the steps are derived from the scriptures. That's why they work applied, scriptures applied. Let's see, what else did I want to share with you? Sorry, guys. So one of the things that the Father had me do a couple years ago was a leadership conference, a Good Samaritan leadership conference. And it was to help leaders understand trauma, that the roots of addiction is trauma. And to help people, help the leaders understand that trauma began in the garden at the fall. And we've all been traumatized. There's big T's and little T's. And I'm hoping that in the future, we can do some shows. Lee and I and Andrea and I and other guests have shows on my StreamYard platform to just help people, because we are in this together. It's a we program. You're not alone. I don't know who's watching this, but you're not alone. And I know what it feels like to be alone. I know what it feels like to feel hopeless. I know what it feels like to be in a pit of toxic shame. Like, the difference between guilt and shame is guilt is there's something really wrong with me. And if you knew me, you wouldn't want to be around me. So I have to put this mask on. I have to pretend that I'm someone or something that I'm not. But the Father says, you are good enough for me, for my kingdom. I love you just as you are. I love your real authentic self. How can we have a relationship with the real authentic Jesus, okay, Yahushua, the creator? How can we have a real authentic relationship when we're playing a family role that we developed as a defense mechanism to survive whatever was going on in our homes? I've heard so many stories through the years, and I've heard so many stories within the Torah community. So after the Good Samaritan Leadership Conference, the Father woke me up at 4:30 in the morning, and he downloaded in me the next kingdom assignment, which was to have Good Samaritan women's retreats, to create safe, small spaces for women to come, to take their mask off, and to be educated on the ACE study, on domestic abuse, on trauma, on addictions. And he showed me my team. So I put together this team of women to serve, therapists and writers and hospitality workers and people who donated beautiful gifts, because so many of us have not been loved on, right? We haven't been taught how to love ourselves. I wasn't. And I, just to be honest, I still struggle. When I used to do the radio, sometimes when I would do a radio show, podcast, the Father would put it on my heart to tell the listener, look, just because I'm on the radio doesn't mean I'm any better than you, because I'm not. I don't know why he has me on the radio, but this is my giftings. This is my calling. This is my giftings. So what are your giftings? What is your calling? Because we're supposed to be working as a body. But some of us are walking with broken legs that need to be reset and healed so we can walk upright in who we are as daughters and sons of the Most High. So we have a work to do. This is my work. What is yours? It doesn't matter how old you are, how young you are, how old you are. There's gifts and there's talents. There's the fivefold ministry, men and women walking together in unity, using our gifts, using our talents for the Father, for building up the kingdom. some people are called to be prayer warriors. That's so important. We need your prayers. We're in a war, brothers and sisters. This is a war. You know, I don't know about you, but I've been going through some stuff. Some really hard family stuff. It's the intergenerational trauma that gets handed down. I lost a son. Another son is facing federal time. He was parted January 6th. I mean, yeah. So it's time to heal, right? It's time to heal. It's time to be real. It's time to shred off us or shed off us those snakeskin lies. Because that's what they are. They're lies from the enemy that get stuffed deep down inside of us. And sometimes we don't even know we're operating out of a lie. That's what denial is. Don't even know I'm lying. So my prayer is to you, brother, to you, sister, so you find freedom. That you find freedom. I gotta show you my t-shirt. This is funny. I hope it's not backwards. I am a freedom fighter to end human trafficking. So I got another story before I close. So I'm just being real. So last week I was having a meltdown. I was in fight flight mode. And it had to do with stuff that's going on with my son in jail. Real meltdown. And I said to the Father, I need to go to the beach. I need to go to the beach. I don't know how you're going to get me to the beach, but Abba, I need to get away for a few days. So the phone rings, and it's a friend of mine who does prison ministry. So she invites me over to Melbourne, Florida, and to be a volunteer at this 5K run for raising awareness for sex trafficking. One of the best ways to work through stuff, if you can, is to go help someone else, right? So I got to go to Merritt Island, and he put me in conversation with this other woman who is Torah observant, and her husband do deliverance ministry. And so we were able to just minister to one another because she's been going through, her and her husband have been going through some really rough stuff. So we were able to minister to one another at Abraham's Seed, or Seed of Abraham. Got to go to Cocoa Beach at this beautiful resort on the beach. And you know what? I had so much fun. I was able to stand on the beach facing the ocean with the sun going down, cheering the runners on because I was near the finish line. And I was able to cheer those runners on. Keep going. You're almost to the end. The finish line's right ahead of you. You can do it. Girl power. You keep going. You go, girl. I'm saying to you, brothers and sisters, keep running the race. You can do it. We're running this race together, and we're almost at the finish line. Can you hear that great crowd of witnesses cheering us on? Throw off the sins that so easily beset you. Let the Master heal you. Let the Master deliver you. Whatever it is. I'm struggling too. We all have gifts. We all have talents for the Master. for his kingdom. So, Father, I lift up to you your sons and your daughters. I lift up to you our feeble knees. I lift up to you our weakened backs. I lift up to you the great weight that is on our chest, on our shoulders. And you tell us that you care for us, to cast our burden upon you, for you care for us. But you promised us that in Philippians 1:6, you said, Abba, being confident of this very thing, that he who began a good work will be faithful to complete it to the day that Yeshua HaMashiach returns. Brothers and sisters, keep running that race, because you are almost at the finish line. You can do it. You can do all things through him who will strengthen you. With that, I am going to say adios.